Walk me through the process. If I wanted to get into this business, what steps would I need to take to get up and running?
The first thing is to know if you want to drive under your own authority or if you want to drive for a carrier company. To start out in my first 2 days to make over $1,000, was I expected that? No, not at all.
Meet Jonathan Russell, the owner of J&K Trucking.
Hey, yo! It's your boy Jay Russ. We are back again.
An expediting sprinter van company that transports freight across America.
Was nervous about it, but I did it, and it's been an amazing ride for me so far.
You mentioned that you only see your family on the weekends. How does your family and friends feel about your schedule and all that? How do you balance that out?
It's kind of hard being away from home. I started out, I was actually on the road for 2 weeks at a time, and I was going to come home for a week. I quickly found out that wasn't working for me. It gets lonely on the road, man. I'm there by myself.
How long does it typically take to go from the initial idea of starting an expediting business to securing your first trip?
The first thing is to know.
In this episode, we sit down with John Russell, the owner of JK Trucking, where he goes over his journey of working 10 years in healthcare and transitioning to being his own boss. You're definitely going to see how he goes over step by step how to get into the business. He shares life stories, not even just that, but just how he balances between spending time with family and just working at his own line of work. And you're going to be captivated by his genuine humbleness, his charismatic energy, and just his humor. Let's dive into the episode of John Russell. I was looking through your YouTube channel and, I saw that you started your journey on March 21st of this year. So you're pretty much a few months into the business. And, after the first 2 days, you made $1,000 plus, net income. How did that reflect your expectations before stepping foot into the space?
Honestly, I was surprised. Just like everybody that wants to get into this business, I did a lot of research starting out. And I researched and, I did see quite a few guys making good money, but, to start out in my first 2 days to make over $1,000, was I expected that? No, not at all. But it was a good sign for me. It was a good sign to let me know, like, okay, John, you kind of stepped out on faith. You quit your job. Decided to be an entrepreneur and start this journey. And right off the bat, man, in 2 days, I made $1,000. And so that was kind of okay, we're moving in the right direction, I think. So
yeah, I really liked how you, on your episodes, you have the whole calendar and you kind of document like every day how much you made and all that. And you're pretty transparent about, the money you make from these shipments. Like, what would you say so far? Well, what is your best day so far?
So the transparency part came from me researching and watching people do what I do now. And you guys actually had Expediting American. Brandon was on, and he is the one that I actually mirrored my content from. He was very transparent about, how much money he made. He was taking out the money that, for his buddy that was loaning them the van, his gas. And I was like, man, I think I want to be transparent with people like this. And I actually started the channel more so as a vlogging channel. I wasn't really expecting it to bloom to where now, people are reaching out to me for advice, guidance, and just questions about the business.
And what would you say has been your best day as far as like payment wise? Like, what was the most you made so far in this business?
So far, actually, it's a recent one. I'm getting ready to post that video probably today or tomorrow. It was a trip from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, to Miami Beach, Florida. It was 1,455 miles. And the good thing though was I picked it up on a Thursday and I didn't have to deliver it until Monday.
Okay, so you has quite some time.
Yeah, I had some time, so I was able to travel. I drove through Alabama, visited family. I'm from Alabama. I'm originally from Alabama, and so I drove through Alabama. I visited some family. Eventually made it home to Georgia later on that Friday evening, and then I spent the whole weekend with family. And I headed out that Sunday to drop it off on that Monday. The bad thing was it was the week that Hurricane Milton hit Florida. Yeah, so I had to drive down to Miami Beach, the very bottom part of Florida, and had to pretty much deadhead to get out of that so I didn't get caught in the hurricane storm. So that would be, and so I made about 14. I made $1,412 on that drive. So that's my most.
Earlier, you mentioned that, before you stepped into entrepreneurship, like what did you do before?
Before, I was a contract specialist for a healthcare company, an insurance company. Basically, I built contracts for smaller doctor offices in the state of Georgia and South Carolina. So I was in the healthcare business for 10 years.
That's a significant amount of time.
Yeah. I was with them for 10 years. I worked from home for 5 years, especially after the pandemic. I worked from home, and I'm an outdoors guy, man. I love being outdoors. I love being outside. I'm a former football player. Um, just sitting in the house, sitting behind a desk for, 8 hours, that wasn't it for me. So
Yeah, no, I definitely can relate to that because I used to work in finance and I was in a cubicle like for 8+ hours a day, and then long story short, I made the transition to something else and where I can kind of move more rather than just sit on a desk. So I feel like you doing this kind of business perfect for someone like you because you're always changing sceneries. You get to, because I remember one of your videos you made a stop to check out. I forgot the name of the place, but you were kind of checking out the scenery and all that. I felt like that was kind of cool. You get a balance within the job, not just ship.
yeah, I would say that was that was one of the highlights, and I try to do that more often when I get an opportunity. Just to, I had the opportunity to travel, to be at places I've never been to before, see things I've never seen before. And, if I have time to stop for 10 or 15 minutes and just enjoy a beautiful sight, like that was an amazing sight. Refreshing, actually. I had been driving all day, and for me to be able to stop, get out, stretch my legs, move around, and just see nature at its best, man, it was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, not for sure. And I feel like for us, being exposed to the city for the majority of our lives, I think we kind of take nature for granted. So yeah, I think that's important. Well, one of the episodes that stuck out to me was episode 4, where you delivered an $80,000 cobot machine to 4 different locations. Just wanted to ask you, like, can you walk me through that process, that journey, and also have you had any similar experiences like that as well?
So the Cobalt machine, man, $80,000. That was a very interesting episode. That was my first. So I found out, with me, like you said earlier, I've been in the business now a little over 6 months. I uh, I learned quickly that, for the most part, you're gonna get business, you're gonna get freight, Monday through Friday. Well, honestly, Monday through Thursday. If you do get anything on a Friday, most of the time you're gonna be dropping it off on a Monday. And that was my first load that I had ever gotten on a Friday, and it was, deliver on Monday. And so I drove up. It was a huge machine. I actually had to take parts of my van off in order for it to fit inside of my van. And the guy, he mentioned like, "Hey, you're gonna be taking this to a school, a high school," but I wasn't thinking like, okay, I'm actually gonna be at a high school. I thought I was gonna be going to a factory where they have a forklift to take it off, and then they ship it to the school. But that Monday, I got to the school, and actually, the school was out that day. There was no school that Monday. I met a librarian, and she was sweet. She was nice. She made some phone calls and got me to the person that had ordered the machine. But he didn't have a forklift. The school didn't have a forklift. And so we kind of had to try to figure out how we was going to get this machine off. And that's when he told me, he was like, would you be able to help me get it off? Because he was going to bring a tractor to the school, which was different. But I was like, I don't really want to participate in that. And he was like, so you're going to make me uh, remove this $80,000 machine. And when he said that, I was like, oh, well, I'm not touching it at all if it's $80,000. And so we had to make some calls, and I ended up having to drive to Knoxville, Tennessee, to get it out of my van. And we got there and we needed extended forklifts, and no one had extended forklift. And we finally found one. We got it off. It was perfect. I was excited to have it out of my van. And I go back to the building to finish up the paperwork. And I look over and I see them driving it back, and they stop and it tilts, and a $80,000 machine falls over on its side. But it was out of my van, it was out of my hands. We were done. So I called the carrier company that I drive for, Square One Transport, and I let them know, like, hey, I just saw them drop the machine, but it was no longer under our care. So, and they said, as long as we had the paperwork and everything signed, we didn't have any issues with that. So yeah.
Have you had any similar experiences like that after that?
I've had it's been more so just long wait times is what I've been experiencing a lot lately. I may get to a pickup location to pick up something, and I recently posted a video. I had to sit for 4 hours to get loaded. Um, there was a video going to Fort Stewart, and I had to sit for 3.5 hours. And Fort Stewart basically was telling me if I didn't get there within the drop off time, that I was gonna have to stay overnight and drop it off the next morning. And I didn't want to do that, but if I had to, I would have. And I'm like, that's a military base, so if they say if you're not here by this time, but I end up getting there on time, but I was at the wrong gate. I had to go to the commercial gate, and it was like 23 miles from where I was at one gate. And so I end up getting there late. And unfortunately, they were still able to unload my van for me. But yeah, I've I've had some pretty intense trips in my 6 months of driving.
Speaking of the military base, I don't know if this was the exact episode that you're talking about, but I remember in one of the episodes where something happened and then you were like, oh, thank God, like everything worked out or something, because I forgot what the exact situation was, but it was like something about maybe you entered in the wrong thing and then they were really strict about you going in there. I'm probably butchering the description, but you're like, thank God, like it was all right.
It was a military base because I was late getting there. Well, I was on time. I got to the base on time, and I actually logged that I arrived on time. But to get to the commercial base, it took like an additional 20-30 minutes. And I think that was probably the most frustrating drive that I've been on. And so when I got to the gate for the commercial vehicles, they had a stop sign saying, wait until, an officer wave you in. Well, I was frustrated. I wasn't being patient. And I drove forward anyway. And an officer came out and told me, like, hey, next time you wait until someone waved you in, because we thought you were a runaway and we were going to have to put you down. Those was his exact words. I didn't have all of that in the video. Yeah, but those were his exact words was, if you kept going. And so I'm like, man, thank God I stopped, because, that video could have went left really bad, really fast.
And then as far as like challenges, right? So I've seen that you've talked about being pulled over. I saw a video where you said your car wouldn't start, and then you had a 15-minute. You were intending to have a 15-minute oil change that turned into a few hours during delivery. What would you say was your biggest challenge so far that you personally experienced on this journey?
I would just learning the do's and don'ts is been a big challenge for me. Being pulled over, that was the first time I had delivered in the state of Florida. I didn't know that all commercial vehicles had to stop at a agricultural inspection station. And so, on that drive, I actually, in my GPS took me down this super scary road at night, and I was terrified of what could pop out of there. And so I was just trying to hurry up and get to the facility. And so, that was a challenge, just learning and just being more educated when it comes to things that happen or things that rules and regulations in different states. Um, Other challenges such as the Valvoline situation, I should have gotten my oil changed before I picked up that load. But, I wanted to make sure that my truck is running great. I'm making sure I'm staying on my maintenance. And I was like, I don't have to have it there until the next day. So I'll stop and get an oil change. And what should have took 15 minutes took an hour and like 15 minutes. And so I would say my challenges have more so been me being inexperienced, me learning as I go is probably the biggest challenges that I've had. And being patient with traffic. Like I've learned I've learned that, if it's a big traffic jam, it's a lot of times it's not the best to get off and detour because it's just gonna take just as long if you get off the exit and take some back roads. I have another video that's gonna be coming out soon. I end up being 2.5 hours late because of a traffic jam. But I found out later on that evening that it was a police standoff. It was a hostage situation on the interstate, and they shut down the entire interstate, southbound and northbound. And so, I couldn't be too upset for being 2.5 hours late with a situation like that. So, I would say my challenge is just me learning as I go and hiccup. I mean, of course, I already knew that eventually you're gonna run into problems with your van, with your vehicle, and you know, I ran into that early into the business. Luckily, I was putting money to the side for that particular situation, but that was a big challenge for me. For one, I was in Tennessee. I wasn't that far from Georgia. You know, I could have been stuck in Pennsylvania or Arizona or Arkansas or whatever, but just being stuck and not being able to get my van going, missing out on opportunities. But overall, it ended up, working out. I was able to take a break and be home with my family for a full week. So um, I'm a glass half full guy, man. So I'm always trying to think of the positive. What good came out of this bad situation? So
That's a perfect way to transition to the next thing I'm going to ask you, because one of my questions was, when your car broke down, when your cargo wasn't starting, you remained pretty composed and you still had a positive attitude, and you said something in the lines of, "It didn't bring me down because I love what I do." What would you say is, like, what do you love most about your job or your line of work at the moment?
what I love the most, man, is the freedom. I'm my own operator. I'm my own boss. I make my own decisions, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to go out and make money to provide for my family. And so, for me, that's the biggest thing for me is I enjoy driving. I enjoy helping people. In my eyes, me getting this freight to the drop off location is helping that business, is helping that person. And so I get joy, I get pleasure out of helping people. And I get to do what I do for fun, man. I enjoy it. I'm a positive person. I try to smile through the storms, through everything, man. So um in that moment, it was a surreal moment for me just because, I'm really just getting into this business and now it's a $3,500 bill that I have to pay for my van. And, I could have easily been like, is this really for me? I got to have this money to do this. And, I said, no, I'm not going to let this get me down. And so that's why I made that statement. That was for me as well as for my viewers. A lot of time when I am talking to the camera, I'm talking to myself. And so I needed some motivation with that. And so and so that's where that came from, man.
But it kind of sounds like you're killing two birds with one stone a little bit. One is to benefit yourself, that motivation, but as a viewer, it does feel like you're having a conversation with you. So I think you do a pretty good job at that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you mentioned that you worked in healthcare for 10 years, and being self-employed and being your own boss is not an easy option because, you have to be on top of things and you're responsible for everything. Generally speaking, like, I feel like not a lot of people would kind of take this route. Like, what would you say is your why? Like, what keeps you going when times are like hard, these challenges that you're facing?
What keep me going is my family. Um, I have to, as a husband, as a father, I have to be able to provide for my family. And that is what really pushes me. My wife had been by my side through this whole journey. In healthcare, at one point toward the end, before I decided to actually make this decision, like I had some dark moments, man. I was struggling with, I got passed over on 5 promotions with with the healthcare. 5, yeah. So, just getting shut down 5 times put me in a space where, I didn't have that ambition. I wasn't motivated. Um, and, stepping out, leaving that and becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a business owner, you have to have that ambition. That's a part of that is why my YouTube channel is called Every Day I'm Rustling. Is because I had to have that ambition. I had to have that hustle to, in the end, it's all about providing for my family. So that's that's my motivation. Yeah.
It totally makes sense. So you mentioned that you only see your family on the weekends. How does your family and friends feel about, your schedule and all that? How do you balance that out?
Uh, it at times it'd be rough. My son, my wife and I have one son. He's special needs. He's autistic, and so he has physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. He's in kindergarten now, and it's kind of hard being away from home. I started out, I was actually on the road for 2 weeks at a time, and I was going to come home for a week, and I quickly found out that that wasn't working for me, and it's just refreshing for me. It gets lonely on the road, man. I'm there by myself. And I talk on the phone. My wife sends me Instagram reels and TikTok reels, and I talk to my mom and my dad. But I look forward to those weekends, and I cherish those. I think my son knows now. He knows, okay, on Fridays, I know my dad's gonna be home Friday, and I'm just gonna nag and be under him all weekend until I know he's back on the road again. So um, I think that work-life balance, I'm getting better at it because, at first I'm like, man, I just need to make money. I need to make money. But, you have to have a balance. Um, if I'm just out there trying to make money, then now I'm taking away my motivation of why I'm making money, like because of my family. So yeah, work-life balance is a definite for me. So we're working on getting better with it, and I do enjoy my weekends, man, hanging out with the family.
Yeah, no, thank God for technology too. I think it makes a whole lot of things easier where you can still communicate with them throughout the week.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, when I am on the road, I do FaceTime, and I sometimes I eat dinner with them, but for the most part, my wife FaceTimes, and it gives me the opportunity to somewhat interact with him while he's eating dinner or when he's doing homework, or she's constantly sending videos just so I can, I'm away, but I'm not away, basically, in a way. So
Well, would you say your structure is pretty what do you call that? Like it's every weekend that you go home, right? So you're pretty much Monday to Fridays you're just working, and then Saturday, Sundays you're pretty much with your family.
yeah, so learning the business, I learned that, well, 6 months going into 7 months, I've only did 2 loads on a Friday. And so I learned quickly that, for the most part, my work time is Monday through Thursday. If I do get anything on a Friday, most of the time it's delivered, that following Monday. And so I work Monday through Friday, and then Monday through Thursday, that Friday morning, I'll stay available to see if I can get a load, surprisingly. And, at a certain time, I'll be like, well, hey, I'm going to start heading home, you know, but I do have the opportunity while I'm driving, they can also monitor where I am and look for loads ahead of where I'm driving. And so I stay available to where if I'm driving towards home and something does pop up, they can call me. I get off the exit and we figure out if I want to take that load or if I want to bid on that load or not. But I try to be home by Friday night to before he goes to bed if I can. So, I can be here for him to go to bed Friday, and then it's all day Saturday and Sunday. And, honestly, it just depends. Like there's been times where I don't get a load on a Monday. And so that's more time that I get a chance to spend, be home with the family. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Just hearing you talk about family, I think I really commend you. I think this is very inspiring because I feel like you have this mindset of knowing how to balance between how to look at money and family, because I feel like there's a lot of entrepreneurs that just focus purely on money, but kind of forget about the relationships in their life. And also I wanted to add that what you mentioned also reminds me of one of the Netflix founders. I remember, I might butcher the story a little bit, but he said something along the lines of why he has like a successful marriage is because I forgot, he picked one day out of the week, maybe like Tuesday after 5 p.m. I'm not answering any phone calls, whatever. I'm going back home with my wife. And that's like a Tuesday ritual thing. And I feel like that kind of compares to like you and your weekends of your family. At the same time, you stay flexible with Fridays and Mondays and all that. So, I think that's really cool, to see that.
At times, I at times I have to say no to certain loads. Like yesterday, I got a call, a possible load driving to Missouri. And like I know, okay, that's like a 500, 600-mile drive for me. Once I drop that off on Friday, like, are you guys going to be able to find me something to get back home to my family? And, I kind of had to, okay, well, that would be good money going there. But then now I'm going to have to deadhead those 500 miles back home. And so, I'm kind of like, I could use the money, but my wife and I, we already have a sitter plan. We're supposed to have a date night tomorrow. So I'm like, I have to be home, and I don't want to have to, deadhead if I don't have to. So that's another challenge. I'll throw that in too. Another challenge is at times having to, say no to a load, because, I want to make sure that I keep my family intact and keep the family time going. So that is a top priority for me.
Well, what you just said also reminded me of another example too. Not to belabor the point, but I remember watching this. I think 50 Cent mentioned this in interviews and like his audiobook too as well. He mentioned that like early in the 2000s, he had this idea of having like a big tour with Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, like, all together. He's like, superstar lineup. We can have a world tour. And then Eminem told him no, like, I'm not doing it. And he was like, why? And he was like, because he didn't want to miss watching his daughter grow up and stuff. And the 50 Cent said like he didn't understand it until like now, and as he looks back. So yeah, I just wanted to add that. But yeah, earlier you mentioned about like saying no to orders because you're kind of, you wanted to value like your time with family. I also remember like you were talking about deadheading in one of your videos as well. Like, what are other times that you do say no besides just spending time with family?
Now that I'm into the business and I've learned a little bit, I said no to loads that or orders that I didn't really see myself making a profit on. Um, I could have did it just to say, oh, I just made $500, but on the back end, did I really make $500? Because now I have to do this and I have to spend money for that. And so that profit goes from $500 to, $350. And so I've said no for those reasons. Let me see. I'm trying to think. I've also said no just based off of the weight. I don't want to put my van through 3,000 pounds if I don't have to. I told myself starting out, like I said, I did a lot of research starting out, and a lot of other cargo van drivers would say, I'm not putting anything over 2,700 pounds. And so I went in the mindset of I'm not going to put anything over 2,700 pounds. And then I turned around and I came close. It was like 2,200. And I had to drive up the mountains in Virginia and West Virginia. And yeah, so that was a load that I probably should have said no to. But, once again, it was a lesson learned. I learned, I'm like, okay, well, for one, going up and down those mountains with heavy cargo, I spent way more money on gas on that trip. So that's a lesson learned for me now. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Damn, that sounds rough, driving through the mountains with that type of load.
Oh yeah. At the very beginning, I enjoyed driving through the mountains. The scenery was nice, and I drive more regional now. So the furthest I've been is Oklahoma, and that was recent. So I stay regional for the most part, just because I know I want to be home every weekend. So I try to stay within that 350, 400-mile range to where, I love driving. So a 400-mile drive back home that's nothing to me.
I want you to walk me through the process. If I wanted to get into this business, what steps would I need to take to get up and running?
So with that, because I get that a lot, I get that question a lot now. There's two things. So I started out with going through the process of being under my own authority, having my own MC. And I would say the first thing is to know, if you want to drive under your own authority or if you want to drive for a carrier company, because there's different steps. The first step that I went through with being under my own MC and driving under my own authority, I came up with my business name, J&K Russell's Trucking. So I got my LLC, I got my EIN number, got my bank account, my business bank account. I went with doing, I did my own BOC3 form. There are ways to, you can hire someone to go in and do that for you. But, once again, you have YouTube, you can research. And I watched people that showed you how you could, register your BOC3 as well as your UCR. Let me see what else. As far as getting my DOT MC, I paid $300 to get my MC number. My commercial insurance, I went through that, as well as purchasing a van. I totally forgot about purchasing a vehicle, your van as well. And as soon as I got my MC, I decided, well, you know what? I want to drive for a carrier company to just kind of get a feel of the business first. And by that time, I had already put a down payment on my insurance, my commercial insurance, as well as the MC. I could have waited on, paying $300 to get my MC authority. Because with the carrier company, I didn't, you don't need that because you're driving under their authority. And so I would say that's why it's different with the carrier company. Also, the company that I drive for, I'm under their commercial insurance. So because I was under their commercial insurance, I had to cancel my commercial insurance. And so that was, that was like $1,200 that I could have saved because my commercial insurance was going to be like $1,008 a month. And so just knowing up front, because I was kind of, do I want to drive under my own authority or do I want to get some experience in this business first? And I should, if I decided to go with a carrier company, you don't have to do all of the other things. I mean, besides purchasing a van, but some people, you can sign under a fleet and they will have a vehicle for you, a van for you. But I would say just to start out, man, the first thing would, do your research, know exactly what you want to do in this transportation business. Like I knew I wanted to do over the road to start out with. I eventually would love to get to doing local routes or doing dedicated routes. That is something that I would love to do in the future. But I just wanted to kind of get out there, get my feet wet, learn the business. Like I'm learning, I don't bid on my own loads. Uh, the carrier company bids for me, but I ask questions. And so, I asked, okay, well, it was it was this many miles I had to drive. Well, why did you bid, this amount? And so I'm learning to when I do go under my own authority, I have the knowledge now. So I would say, do your research, figure out what type of van you would like to have, know what lane you want to be in. Do you want to do over the road? Do you want to do local, medical carrier? Just kind of know exactly what you want to do so that once you do get in it, you can give it your all, is what I would say.
With the carrier company, are you on a contract, or can you just kind of go on your own anytime you want? How does that whole process work?
I am under a contract with Square One Transport. If I decided to leave, basically it's like a 9 to 5 job. I would just have to give them a 2 week notice, and we could end the contract. Yeah. Um, with them, I am exclusive because a lot of people ask. Like there are times where I have a load that is a 5 pound box. And they're like, you can, like, why not, get another, that's a partial load. Why not get another load and you can drop that off and you still have this little box where I drive the company I drive for the most part, we do one load, one cargo or freight at a time. And so I drive exclusively, so I can't drive for any other carrier company. But, my YouTube channel kind of blew up, and my first video is doing really, really good. I never thought that it would, be at 44,000 views, in 6 months. I watched a video of Mr. Beast, and he was just saying that, if you want to be a content creator, it takes a special person that their first video or first couple videos get 1,000 or get 10,000 views. And he was like, it took him a while. And he was like, the only people that get those type are the ones that got the great personality and is very lovable. And I look up and I'm like, man, in my first month, I had over 10,000 views. And so that made me feel good. Like, okay, yeah, like, Mr. B said it took him a while. Look where he is now. So,
You reached it faster than him.
yeah, I did. I can say that.
How long does it typically take to go from the initial idea of starting an expediting business to securing, your first trip?
For me, actually, it was pretty fast. I had my orientation with Square One on March the 18th. It took a couple days for my decal to come in to put on the side of my van. And the first day that I went available to take a load, they actually called me with my first load going to right outside of Detroit, Michigan, in Warren, Michigan. And I was super excited. I was nervous at the same time. But overall, it felt good. The drive wasn't bad. Um, I did have to stop. So that was my first time of kind of taking a nap or sleeping in my van. And I stopped outside of Ohio. I want to say like Toledo, Ohio, and kind of took like a 3 hour nap. And then I got up and finished the rest of the drive. And yeah, it got cold there. It was very cold. It was a nice little blizzard going. But my first load as an expediter, as soon as I became available, was the first day. Like I didn't. It was basically just jump in head first and get after it, man. And I would say this was one of the best decisions I've made in my life, man. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I love it.
So, John, you mentioned that on your first 2 days of the job, you made $1,000 plus. And so, for someone that is interested in getting into the business, and if they're down on luck, they're tight on the budget, like if they're in a position where they don't have like some savings on the side, and would you advise them to get into the business?
Honestly, I wouldn't advise it. If you're down on your luck and you don't really have any money put to the side, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't just jump right into this business because I learned quickly that, as much money as you can make in this business, you're gonna spend a lot in business expenses. And so, if you happen to have a cargo van, that would be very helpful. But as far as keeping up with the maintenance, gas, fuel is a big thing. I spend quite a bit of money on fuel. That's mostly where my business expenses come from. Of course, getting my oil changed, making sure the maintenance is done, rotating the tires, but as far as, down on your luck, all you have is, $50 to your name. No, I wouldn't jump right into it. That's where I would start my research, is if I'm down on my luck and I think that this is something that I would love to do and enjoy doing, then yes. I have talked to people and, let them know, like, there are some carrier companies that have a fleet that, you may not own a van, but you can rent one of their vans and drive for them. But well, you know what? If you do go that route, a lot of times they take care of the maintenance part of it. So, I would say, I wouldn't say completely no, I wouldn't do it, because you can sign on with a fleet that actually has a van. And that owner or that fleet owner will be the one that takes care of the maintenance of that van. So I kind of bring my answer of saying no, I wouldn't do it. Uh, that would be the only route. Is I would go with a carrier company that would allow for me to rent a van, and that would be the route that I would go. And you would still be able to make money, and in that process put some money to the side to where, when the business is a little slow, because there have been times, like I said, when I first did my first day, my first 2 days, I made $1,000, but then after that, it was, I got a load every other week. I mean, every other day. I might have got 2 loads in that week. The next week I might only got one load. So the market kind of varies. So as far as, I would say, if you're going to go that route of joining a fleet and driving one of their vehicles, I would say go for it, man. But as far as purchasing your own van, um, and doing it that way, no, I would put some money to the side, because I would have never thought that, basically two months into driving, that my van wouldn't start and I have to pay $3,500 to get it fixed. And yeah, so I would definitely say, if you can, sign on with the fleet owner that will rent a van to you, do it. I mean, this business is sustainable. I don't think it's going nowhere. And yeah, I mean, I stepped out on faith, man, and was nervous about it, but I did it, and uh, it's been an amazing ride for me so far. So for anybody out there that want to get into this business, for one, I'm all about helping people. If I can answer some questions, reach out to me, and I will assist as much as I can.
Those are really great points, and I think it'll help a lot of people. And yeah, I just wanted to thank you for your time, John, and just wanted to let you know that I really respect your ambition. I admire you for sharing, being transparent about your stories, not just your journey, but also like what's going on with your life. I think it was really cool to see you talk about your struggles too, about how you were passed by over 5 promotions, 10 years in the health business, and then just decided to be your own boss. You know, I think I commend you for your positive attitude, regardless of the challenges you got. And I think that one of the points that really sticks out to me is like I think you have a very good perspective about life. You know how to balance between family and success, and you know it just shows the you know that you stand on strong character. So yeah, man, just wanted to let you know. But yeah, anything else that you wanted to let people know? Anything you wanted to promote or anything?
Well, for one, I would like to just give a shout out to a couple of other content creators, man. Expediting America. I've never met him, never talked to him before, but you know, he is the guy for me, man. I mirror my content from him. I kind of stopped doing the calendar showing how much I made each day just because of that was a lot of editing and all of that, which actually I kind of love editing. I don't mind the editing part. But you know, just seeing what he was doing really inspired me. That's actually he's the reason I started a YouTube channel, just to be honest. Um, he's the reason. He's also the reason I came up with my little alter ego, my twin. You know, he has Bubba Joe as his road dog, and I was like, I gotta have somebody. And so I was looking at some YouTube videos of uh, you know, learning different editing techniques and styles. And I saw a guy um, doing an intro, and then the second person, which was him, popped in, and I'm like, man, you know, I would love to do that. And so I learned how to implement Twin into it, and that kind of showed, you know, I'm a very detail oriented person. My wife tells me I can be boring at times, but you know, I have a good personality, and I think Twin he allows me to show that side to kind of be silly and joke. Um, but you know, Expediting American was big for me. I saw he you know did a podcast with you guys. I enjoyed that podcast. Uh, Big CJ, um, Stick With Us, Delivery. A lot of those guys have been very helpful. So I would say, you know, I try to drop nuggets in all of my videos. But if you're not getting much from me, I would check those guys out as well. Um, mentally, mental health is a big thing for me. I'll be honest, I do have a therapist. I have, you know, sessions uh, every other week, which helps me a lot. You know, just keeps me in a clear mind, doing well with my family, with, you know, marriage, just with life. And I would say that's very big. I recently became good friends with another content creator, Daily Grind with the Grams, and we now call each other when we get loads. We talk about stories. We actually plan on doing some collaboration whenever we get an opportunity to, just to share, man. I let him know that, man, right now it has to be more about educational. Like we have to be able to, because a lot of people are reaching out to him, a lot of people are reaching out to me, and I'm like, man, you know, I love posting the videos showing, you know, me picking this load up and me dropping this load off. But a lot of people are asking me, okay, well, what about what's going on behind the scenes? What do we not see on camera? And so I'm kind of getting into that now to where, okay, now I'm gonna be more educational, and you know, this podcast actually gives me an opportunity to do that. And I want to say thank you to you guys, man. You know, you guys are the first ones that reached out to me. And so I would like to say thank you. I do appreciate that. I'll never forget this. This is a great opportunity, man. So thank you guys. And
It is a monumental moment.
oh yeah, it is. It definitely is. I mean, once you guys reached out to me, I've now gotten, you know, emails for 2 collaborations. And so I'm working with them to kind of figure out how I can collaborate with them. But you guys got the ball rolling for me, man. So I do appreciate it.
Yeah, so everyone, thank you for watching this episode with John Russell, aka the owner of Everyday I'm Russellin YouTube channel. You know, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to him. We'll leave his information down below. And yeah, man, see you guys in the next episode.